Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Sanderlanche podcast. We are back from our 2-week break here. This week, we are going to be discussing chapters 50, 51, and 52 of Words of Radiance by Brandon Sanderson, wherein Adolin and Sadeas have a little friendly chat. We get some more numbers carved on things. Adolin ends up having a conversation with a certain Parshendi that we know, while pretending to be his father. And then we get like a what I think is a pretty interesting like back and forth chapter that cuts between Kaladin exploring his powers and Shallan, I guess in a way also exploring her powers. So some interesting stuff happens, especially in that last chapter, I think. I'm Data, and with me today is
Jack,
Joe,
and Jamie.
So hang on to something, everybody. The Sanderlanche is about to begin. So yeah, we've been off for a little bit, but we are back. What did you guys think of these 3 chapters this time? Did you read them like right away and you're now having to remember, or did everyone wait until just before we recorded to read?
Nope, I read them maybe a day after we last recorded, and I've just had to go, shit, what happened again? It's been some time. But no, like interesting stuff. I do think I like the Sadeas and Adolin relationship is really interesting because Adolin just really wants to. He hates Sadeas and just wishes he would have a heart attack and die. And Sadeas seems like he's genuinely just like, could use you know, man. He's doing it in his typical oily way, but like, he genuinely thinks he could make something of Adolin. So I think it's like, no, that's kind of nice in a disgusting way. The meeting with Eshonai wasn't quite as chaotic as I expected it to be, but ultimately the same result. Eshonai is just here. It's like, no, I'm actually just here to flip you the bird. We're gonna fuck you up. I'm like, oh, okay. The chapter that had my attention was Kaladin and Shallan doing their things, like especially because of the revelation right at the end. It's like, oh, so it looks like Kaladin might have killed Shallan's brother. That's a twist.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that changes that relationship in a way neither of them realize or have any way of realizing yet at this point, because Shallan's got the wrong information because of Amaram. And I don't know how Kaladin will ever find that out, but yeah, that's a twist.
You are not joking. Like at that point in the chapter, we found out some interesting stuff. We've seen some cool stuff, and then it's just like, oh, I was not expecting that sort of bomb at the end.
Yeah.
But yeah, that has some interesting ramifications. Although you make a good point. There's like, how exactly would Kaladin find out about this? Like, it's not like it's common knowledge or anything, unless Shallan is going to start shouting, "This guy killed my brother." Which, let's be fair. Assuming that was actually her brother, the guy was just showed up at a battle and tried to kill Amaram. So it's not like Amaram would have done something wrong in defending himself.
True, but people can get kind of funny about people who kill their family in the heat of battle, which is fair.
Well, yeah, so, right.
Yeah. But yeah, it's like, it doesn't seem like the sort of thing Shallan is going to shout from the rooftops. So the only way I could see it happening was if, like, she's whispering it to Adolin while Kaladin's on guard and Kaladin happens to overhear. I'm like, there's a lot of if in that scenario, so.
Oh yeah, that's a fair point. It could happen sort of like that.
Yeah. But like, you got to twist a bit to get to that point.
Although it also brings into question, like, do we know who Halarin, her brother, was working for? Like, according to Amaram, he thinks the Ghostbloods were after him. So is that who Halarin was working with or for? Because that was also who his dad seems to have been working with, and they hated each other. Like, it's a weird series of questions.
We sort of speculated about that. We wondered, just like, when Halarin first showed up with the Shardblade, we're like, oh, did he get, like, he's talking about his new friends, his new partners, and it was like, oh, did Halarin hook up with the Ghostbloods, and maybe if he's died or something, like, they've forced his brother, like, they forced his dad into, taking over his debts. Which, knowing now what we've seen with, her dad, like, trying to kick Wickham, I think it was Wickham, out over his debts, and refusing to take responsibility for them. It's like, well, that's a hell of a wrinkle.
Fair point, yeah.
Yeah, these chapters, I agree with Dak. There's some kind of tension about Shallan's brother being killed by Kaladin, but yeah, again, how is that going to be found out? Is it ever going to be found out? I don't really know the answer to that question. I don't see how the information could really come to light unless Kaladin straight up said like Amaram doesn't deserve that blade. I want it in front of her. That'd be the only way that would happen. That doesn't seem
That would
like
do
something.
it. Yeah.
That doesn't seem like something Kaladin would say, but yeah, who knows? Not a ton. I mean, well, I say that. It doesn't feel like a ton happened in this chapter, and at the same time, it does feel like a ton happened in this chapter. We have a lot of things going on. We get that kind of moment between Adolin and Sadeas, and then we get the meeting with the Parshendi, and then the whole back and forth between Shallan and Kaladin perspective. That to me at least tells me that we're heading in the direction for the end of the part, because I think Jamie has mentioned this many times. It seems like when Brandon switches between perspectives a lot in a chapter, we're coming like to an exciting part or the end of a part, so like things are starting to kind of pick up. So that does basically have some excitement, like for me being like, oh, okay, something's about to happen. Now, as for like the revelation with Amaram and the maps and him looking for Urithiru or trying to bring back the Voidbringers, like that part is super confusing to me. Like, what is his game? Like, whose side is he on? Like, is he on his own side? Is he on the side of some other people? Like, what? That was pretty shocking revelation in and of itself, because you're just like, what is he doing? What is his plan and why? And then there's also, a couple of moments between Syl and Kaladin that you're kind of like, whoa, something's going on with that too. Like he's learning more about his powers, but also like there's the shard blade business, and she's talking about how one can be forged, but she won't say anything extra, and so it's a little tense. But I think we're heading to something good at the end of the part, or at least something exciting anyway. And then Shen leaving, I did not see that coming, so that was very interesting. And then giving Kaladin his real name, so that was good. I don't know that he seemed more like aware of himself. Maybe he always was, but he's probably still in that like dull form or worker form or whatever it is. So I don't know. Well, I guess we'll see. But he obviously feels some kind of, I assume maybe like enough Parshendi are singing to call all the Parshmen back. But if Shen's leaving, that's got to mean all the Parshmen are leaving, right? So like it's gonna get noticed.
That you would notice, right? Yeah.
Yeah, because all of these people on the Shattered Plains have all these Parshmen. Like if Shen's leaving, they're all leaving, and that is going to be noticed for sure. And I think what I don't think Dalinar and Adolin are counting on is that connection between Parshmen and Parshendi. Like they're not thinking about the numbers of Parshendi that are now going to be available to their ranks with all those Parshmen that are leaving them and joining the ranks of the Parshendi. Also,
that's true.
If it's these Parshendi and the Parshmen, not just the Parshmen on the Shattered Plains, all Parshmen everywhere, that is a large force that we don't even know. Like we can't even begin to think of the scope of that.
Yeah, because they're everywhere. Scary.
Yeah.
But
yeah, don't know what's gonna happen for sure.
I'm curious rather about, and maybe it's a little early for predicaments, but you're like it seems like we're building up to something exciting to end the part with. So what kind of thing? Like, is it going to involve Amaram? Is that where the like exciting part ending happens?
I don't know. Hell, I how am I supposed to know? I got nothing. I got nothing to go on here.
Fair.
Back for 2 weeks break, and he's already throwing bombs at you.
Yeah, exactly. He's like, figure it out. I'm like, you're the guy who's read it. I don't know.
But also, you make an interesting point about Amaram trying to bring back the Voidbringers, apparently, which we can talk about when we get there. But my first thought is like, oh, maybe the Ghostbloods aren't wrong if they're trying to kill him, if that's what he's after.
Right. But I mean, also Shallan makes a good point too in the book. Like, is this also what they want? Should I be giving them this information?
Fair point also.
Yeah, these were a good few chapters, and there's a lot of links being drawn, I guess, that we hadn't really considered, or I know I definitely hadn't considered before. So to touch on a few things that's already been spoken about. Sadeas being nice. I don't know that that's Sadeas being nice to Adolin or just being a bit of a dick, trying to cover it as being nice. Like, if you wanted to really, get to your enemy, surely going to their child is definitely a way to do it. So I don't think Adolin's seeing through it, but I don't think Sadeas actually has good intentions for Adolin either. With Esh and I basically giving them the bird through that meeting, we've got to remember a lot's happened to her since she originally set up that meeting. Like when she sent the messenger to set up a time, she's changed form since then, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, her original intention versus her intentions now are they feel very different. She feels very different, both when we look at her perspective, but also in that chapter with Adolin talking to her, it didn't feel like the same character at all. So that's a bit ominous. And then, to have the Parshman check it out. And is it all of them, or is it Shen because Shen's free? How are the rest of them going to go? Like, do they just up and walk out? I don't know that that's even a thing that they can really do. So that's quite scary. We're definitely building up to something there. And as Joe put it, that's exactly what I was going for with the last chapter of the alternating perspectives. I was like, oh, this is going to be good. We're going to get some really good stuff in here. And we did. I think at first I was like, something really big is going to happen at the end of the chapter. And I think realistically something really big did happen, just not kind of in the way we're used to. That whole chapter of having that positioning side by side of them both like learning to use their powers, but also getting really good at what they're doing with those powers and having that little bit of a win for each of them. I liked the side-by-side nature of that. It was definitely, with Kaladin, it was definitely giving me like Vin learning her Mistborn powers vibes. I think the first time she was using coins to like fly through the air and stuff, I was just getting flashbacks to that, which was pretty cool. But you could see it like building, and then the penny drop of the like, oh god, it's Halaran's blade. This is great. So no one except Dalinar knows that Kaladin actually killed the guy and that Amaram took the blade. Amaram's not going to tell anyone that he robbed someone of the blade and made it happen.
Probably not.
So the only way realistically that Shallan is going to find out is from Kaladin himself. So what you have now is Kaladin and Shallan. Amaram killed both of their brothers. So that's like a common point of hatred. We've got both their brothers are dead at Amaram's hand, supposedly. They both have powers they're not telling anyone about. Shallan's got her own secret shard blade, so it's not like you can sit on your high horse and go, oh my god, you had to kill, like, you killed someone. Like, yeah, love, you probably got your blade the same way. So, I mean, she's got a very traumatic past and stuff. I'm not saying, sometimes you have to kill someone in these books, and I get that. But that's a really, like, there's a lot of interesting similarities happening between those two. I sort of hope they can get past their differences and work together, because that will absolutely be a force to be reckoned with. I thought it was interesting that we also had Adolin was like, I could just kill Sadeas. I could just be done with it. Like right here, right now. And you've got Kaladin at the end of the chapter as well going, I could just go get him. Like, let's just do that. Today's already been a great day. We'll just finish it up with, getting rid of my enemy. That will be great. So like there was so many things for me in these 3 chapters that were being brought together, which is really like it was exciting, and it really keen to see where we go to the end of this part, because you just want to knock their heads together sometimes and go, if you all sat in a room and had an open conversation, this book would be a lot shorter, first of all.
Yeah.
And a lot less exciting, because it's nice to find things out as you go. But there's so many so many common things between some of these characters. Yeah, I'm just excited to see how it all falls out now.
That's a really good point. I hadn't actually thought about it. We've been talking about for a while, like Shallan and Kaladin's journeys are kind of like parallel, but you're right that it's like with this reveal, they both now blame Amaram for their brothers' deaths. They both now are learning to use their powers really well. They're both in the same place now, which that has not been the case for most of these two books. So yeah, there's they have a lot in common.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, the other one that I wanted to bring up as well was that Adolin and Shallan in the last set of chapters just had a conversation about the Parshman and like what would it take for the Parshman to go, like if there's a link there about the Voidbringers and now they're all going to go. So that, well, like what's the not fallout, but I would expect to see an Adolin and Shallan conversation after this at some point.
Is Adolin like, did you do something to all the Parshman? She said, no, it wasn't me, I swear.
I don't know that it'll be a did you do this, but it'll definitely be a what do you know about this, because something weird has just happened.
Yeah, fair. I mean, it does seem like it should be a fair question at that point when you've just had this discussion, right? Like, do you know something about this?
Exactly.
All right. Okay, y'all. Let's move into these chapters. The first one is Uncut Gems, not the movie, the chapter 50.
I feel like that movie keeps coming up a lot when we discuss these books.
I mean, it came up last time because we found out the title of this chapter last time, so maybe that's what.
I know, but it's like it's come up a few times before as well in previous episodes.
They do talk about gems a lot, and when they get them out of the chasm fiends, they are uncut, so I guess it makes sense. And we get the uncut gems, or one of the references in the chapter, just right here in the first sentence of the epigraph, where it's like, and now if there was an uncut gem among the Radiants, it was the Will Shapers. For though enterprising, they were erratic. And Invia wrote of them, capricious, frustrating, unreliable, as taking it for granted that others would agree. So the Will Shapers sound like an interesting order of knights. Apparently they love adventure, novelty, and oddity. Who doesn't, really?
Yeah, kind of a broad description there.
And we cut back to Adolin, who we last left as him and Shallan were ending their date, and they were heading into their separate rooms to wait out the high storm. And Adolin's drinking some wine, waiting for the storm to be over. And here comes Ellet, the guy that he's supposed to duel. And he's like, hey, you ready for this duel? You've made me wait a whole week. And Ellet's like, oh, man, my cousin wants to kill me for challenging you, but you just wait. When I get all your shards from your whole family, dude, I'll be the important one then. And Adolin's like, I mean, if you're so excited for this, you're the one who made me wait. He says, the more to savor what I'm going to do to you. And as he leaves, Adolin's like, geez, that guy's creepy. And then he hears Ellet talking to someone else, and it turns out that he's like, wait, I know that voice. And it's Sadeas. And as Sadeas walks by, Adolin's like, maybe he'll just keep walking, but of course he's not going to. And Sadeas is wearing buttons on his coat made of gemstones. And he's like, hey, Adolin, what do you think of my coat? You're so stylish. Oh, yeah, you noticed my gemstones. They're recent acquisitions. I'm fond of them. So he's trying to, like, subtly rub it in people's faces that he's going out and, like, winning the gem hearts when he's not supposed to in secret. And I love Adolin doesn't, like, waste any words. He's just like, I hate you. And Sadeas like, yeah, you totally should. And then he makes fun of the bridgeman, like, oh, I see my former property is treating you well. And there's a discussion about Dalinar. Is he really out for justice? And as we heard Sadeas and Ialai planning not long ago, like, they've been agitating that Dalinar is, like, not letting the High Prince of Information in on this investigation of what's going of the attack on the king. And just as they're ready to be like, yes, we're fine, we will let Sadeas be involved in this, Sadeas resigned his High Prince of Information position. He's like, yeah, I talked to the other High Princes, and we all pretty much agree none of us are suited for these kind of appointments. So what are you going to do?
Damn.
He's got all the bases covered. And Adolin insults him some, and like Sadeas is just like, eloquent. You realize I created this kingdom. It's like, no, you helped my father and uncle create it. It's like, yeah, both of those men are gone. The Blackthorn is as dead as old Gavilar. Instead, 2 idiots rule this kingdom. And he's like, look, I'm trying to bring Alethkar back to what it is supposed to be. And he's like, you know what? I'm glad you survived the tower that day. You'll make a fine High Prince in the coming months. I have a feeling in 10 years or so, after a big, long civil war, the alliance between me and you will be like super strong. And Aelin's like, no, I will have rammed my sword through your gut long before that. And Sadeas just like raises his cup of wine, like, all right.
It does feel like Sadeas is trying to reach Adolin in a way that Adolin will accept, because like if Sadeas came out and said, "Hey, look, I respect you," and like Adolin would just like shrug that off, and it's like, well, you're full of shit. So it seems like he's trying to reach out to Adolin in a way Adolin isn't immediately gonna just shrug him off, and Adolin does anyway, because that's just how Adolin do.
Well, and I mean that's fair, but Aelin's just like never liked Sadeas since we started these books.
Sure, but even the fact that Sadeas is bothering to make the attempt just seems like he really does respect Adolin in his way.
Maybe it's an attempt to manipulate him in some way.
Maybe, but we saw from like when he was watching the duels, he thinks that like Adolin has something to him. So
true.
Doesn't mean he wouldn't double cross him or stab him in the back or.
Oh God, no! Like,
No.
so like Sadeas will throw anyone and everyone under the bus, but like he might feel bad about it for about 4 seconds.
Really, Adolin is the uncut gem.
Hey.
Ooh, I saw what you did there.
Yeah, I think Sadeas sees him as like kind of raw Play-Doh to be molded by him. That's why he's doing this crap.
Yeah, that would fit with what Dak was mentioning about like the discussion that he had with ILI about it. Like,
yeah,
here's something I can figure out how to use.
Yeah, exactly.
But meanwhile, apparently one of his bridgeman guards seems to be Teft, because it talks about he's got like silver at his temples, and Teft like gives him a nod, like, yeah, you tell Sadeas.
Yeah, fuck him up, boss.
We are 100% behind this plan of like shoving your sword in his gut.
We'll hold his arms.
Yeah, exactly. And so eventually the storm's gone. Adolin takes off, and the bridgemen are following him. And he thinks, those insufferable bridgemen are still following me. And then he kind of feels bad about it almost, where he's like, I mean, it's not them. I just don't like having minders. They seem like amiable enough fellows, particularly when away from their commander.
I think he's had that thought a few times now. He's like, the fucking bridgemen. No, not their fault. They're doing their job.
Yep. But that Kaladin guy, screw that guy.
Yep.
And while he's walking home, he's thinking about Shallan and how amazing she is, like how marvelous and exotic and witty.
She doesn't make me feel dumb, even though I'm dumb.
No, I like that. He's like, she's smarter than me, but doesn't make me feel dumb, which is like a big point in her favor, he thinks. And yeah, I feel like there's a slight difference between that. It's like, I'm dumb. I mean, he's not the cleverest like science or in book smarts, I guess, but what can you do? That's how they're raised. They're not allowed to read. And he gets back to Dalinar's camp, or Dalinar's, like, because he's thinking like, we should make our place nicer. A bunkerish dwelling is what he calls it. And he's like, why can't we have a proper mansion? I mean, yeah, we have to set an example for the men, but our family is important. There's like standards that we should be upholding. When he gets back, a bunch of people are gathered around, and he's like, hey, what are you guys all doing around here? And there's more glyphs scratched into the stone on the floor of the sitting room. And the Azish guy, Sigzil, is the only one among them who can read. He's like, 32 days, seek the center. And so they have to get like Dalinar and everybody else in here to look at this and see what's up with it. And Dalinar realizes that the carving was made with his personal knife. And Adolin tries to argue, like, somebody could have snuck into your study and grabbed it while you were having a vision. And Dalinar's like, I mean, really? Navani also, the simplest answer is probably the right one here.
He's like, look, it was worth a shot.
And Adolin doesn't like this. Not only this, he doesn't like the picture of Dalinar like scrabbling on the ground, carving things in the floor while he's not even in control of himself. But also, this is foretelling the future. This is of the Voidbringers. And Dalinar's like, yeah, it is. What do you think seek the center means? Like the center of the Shattered Plains, I guess? And also, I missed the moment where Adolin notices that of the armed bridgemen hanging around, one of them is a Parshendi. And so at the end of the conversation, he's like, Dad, by the way, did you know that there's an armed Parshendi with the bridge guys? And Donald's like, oh, yeah, He's always been one of them, but they didn't give him a spear until I gave them permission. And Aelin's like, but why though? Like, why would you do that? And Dalinar's only response is out of curiosity. And then he changes the subject to ask Navani, how far away is 32 days? And Navani goes, that's going to be right in the middle of the weeping. I can't imagine the significance. And that's where we end that chapter. So we have we may have already had an idea that the weeping was kind of where the numbers were directing, but now we know it's like right in the middle.
Because the weeping lasts what, like a week, 2 weeks?
I think it's 2 weeks. It told us, and now I've forgotten. Hold on. Now I'm gonna have to look that up because you asked the question and I don't remember, and that is gonna bother me. Stormlight weeping. I get like pictures of Kaladin crying. It is a 4-week long period.
Oh, okay.
The next chapter is heirs, and the epigraph here is: in short, if any presumed Kazila to be innocent, you must look at the facts and deny them in their entirety. To say the Radiants were destitute of integrity for this execution of one of their own who had obviously fraternized with unwholesome elements indicates the most slothful of reasoning. So someone named Kazila apparently was like tried and executed by the Radiants, and it was one of their own because Kazila fraternized with unwholesome elements. That's really vague.
Is this person walking around going, Odium did nothing wrong? And they're just
Yeah,
like, well,
maybe.
fuck this person.
No, they were saying Moash did nothing wrong, and Dak
didn't Moash
doomed
do
them.
wrong?
Okay, so we're still with Adolin the next day. And I love that Adolin chapters have the little header of just like a guy in shard plate with a shard blade. Like, that's Adolin. There you go.
That's his deal.
That's who he is. That's what he does, man.
And so Adolin has decided over the night on 2 things. First of all, he's not going to worry about his father's disconcerting behavior during the visions. And the other one is he's not going to let Dalinar be the one who goes to speak to the Parshendi.
I love how easily he can just go, oh man, I was worried last night about Dad doing all those things, but you know what? Not going to think about it. Not going to worry. Turn it off. And just doesn't. Like, fuck, how do you do that? How do you turn off negative feelings like that?
Hakuna Matata, man. Well, you know.
Yeah, means no worries. Come on.
He comes in, and Dalinar and Navani and Kaladin and General Call and Renarin are all in here. And he's annoyed because Renarin's wearing the Bridge 4 uniform and like standing guard. And Renarin refused to give up on that decision despite Adolin's insistence. So I like this picture. The brothers are like hanging out, and Adolin's like, dude, you got to stop this. This is ridiculous. And Renarin's like, no, I'm not gonna.
Oh, I mean, you know what might be an interesting wrinkle later on is if Amaram kills Renarin, and then you got Kaladin, Shallan, and Adolin will be just like, Amaram killed my brother, and that's how they unite.
Ooh, that would be a bond right there. I don't want to see Renarin murdered, though. That's not cool.
No, I don't want to see it either. I love Renarin, but
Yeah.
you know, it just I
Plus,
thought of it earlier when we were
Renarin's
talking
secret
about
bad
how,
guy or whatever.
Is he?
True. That was a theory at some point. Yes.
Okay. We need to come up with someone even more ludicrous for secret bad. The Lopen. Can you imagine the Lopen as secret bad guy?
No, not the Lopen secret bad guy.
All his cousins are in the mob, and
You monster.
He's secretly the kingpin.
Turns out Lopen's cousins is like the Lopen is Odium and his cousins are all the Voidbringers.
Yeah, all the Herdazians are Voidbringers.
Interesting.
And they'll just swarm the Shattered Plains, and every victim they kill, they'll just look in their eyes and go, "G'day, mate."
Oh no.
Oh my gosh. Actually, you got me thinking about if Renarin dies like while serving on Bridge 4, then Kaladin would feel responsible for that also.
Oh shit, yeah. Just add more to his guilt complex.
Exactly. Like he doesn't have enough of that going on. So in the conversation, Dalinar's like, we're gonna need some bridgemen in case we need to retreat quickly. And Kaladin's like, oh, okay, I'll talk to Bridges 5 and 12. They seem most nostalgic for the bridges. And they talk about bridge runs with fondness. And Navani's like, but weren't those horrible bloodbaths?
And Navani's saying what we're all thinking.
Yeah, but soldiers are weird. Disaster
Won't that crush my
unifies them.
bones?
Oh yeah, I always forget about the bones. I can't do my Zoidberg well. And as Kaladin explains that, like, yeah, soldiers are just weird about this kind of stuff. The generals over here are like, yep, totally.
He's like, I can see it. I don't get it personally with the bridge crews, but I can see it.
I was never happier than when that arrow took me through the bicep.
Loved it.
And so they lay out the plan, and Adolin comes. He's like, "Oh yeah, sounds good. This looks good. Except for one thing, you're not going to be there, Dad." And Dalinar's arguing, and he's like, "No, look, you have insisted that your visions are like super important for the future of Alethkar, and I've decided I agree with you. So can anyone here argue that Dalinar is too important to risk on something stupid? Can you deny, Father, that every single person in this room is less important than you are?" And I imagine Kaladin over here like, I mean, I want to disagree, but
I feel like I'm pretty important. I mean, I am me.
if the Lopen was here, he absolutely would object at that point and be like, excuse me, Lopen, come on.
He's like, pardon me, Gancho. I am the most important one here.
And Kaladin will be like, fuck's sake, Lopen, this is why I don't bring you to these things.
Exactly, yeah. You're not allowed in the meetings for a good reason, Lopen. And eventually Dalinar has to agree. He's like, it shouldn't be true, but fine, okay. And so Adolin puts on Dalinar's. He's like, I'm gonna have to talk to Renarin to borrow his shard plate. Puts on his father's old armor. I guess Renarin hasn't painted it because it's looking the same. He even gets to ride Dalinar's horse, which is apparently the most complicated thing of all, because the horse does not want to let somebody else ride him, and Dalinar has to like give a lengthy explanation to the horse in order for Adolin to be able to get on.
I'd never thought about how difficult that would be, because you've had Dalinar talking about the relationship with Gallant and like the Reshadium are different, all that sort of stuff, and then I was like, oh, Aelin's going to put on his plate. That makes sense. I didn't even think about the horse or Reshadium, and then it was like, yeah, this horse is going to be really unpredictable. You've got no idea what it's going to do and how it's going to react. That would have been really difficult. You're already worried about posing as your father, let alone making sure that the horse doesn't run off without you. That's very un-Dalinar.
Yeah, no, you're right, and it's interesting. Like, we've heard about these Reshadium and how different they are before now, but I think this is one of our first encounters with just like, oh no, there's like something really special about these. And I like the Adolin's like, I mean, and I would never try to ride him into battle because he would probably throw me off and run away looking to protect Dalinar. Like, good horse.
He's going to come back and his Reshadium is going to be like, what the fuck is that smell on you?
Who have you been riding? How could you? And he goes out to wait for the Parshendi and finds like a chasm fiend, like petrified in the stone out here. It's like he must have died centuries ago and been slowly crusted over with crem. So basically, the way the crem falls in the high storms and then hardens. I mean, we've seen them, like Kaladin's mother at one point, we saw her like chiseling the crem off of buildings that had like settled and started to harden like icicles, basically. And so out here on the Shattered Plains, it's just big open space. So over time, the crem hardens over everything, it seems like. And so they're still worried the assassin's going to just show up, which that would be a problem. But then the Parshendi show. And who wouldn't you know, it's our favorite shard bearer Parshendi, Eshonai. Though Eshonai is a little bit different from what we've known before. I mean, we saw the change with our own eyes, as it were, but we haven't seen much of her since then, I guess. And she's met Dalinar before. She's like, oh, do you remember me? And Aelin's like, no. Trying to like make his voice deeper like his dad's. And Eshonai's like, yeah, I'm not surprised. I was young and unimportant back then.
I like how you make her sound so nice. I don't think that's how her voice sounded. She's probably like, do you remember me? He's like, no, I don't mind. I'm not surprised. She's obviously cold and aloof.
Remember me. Now you got me thinking of like that song from Coco. Don't know why. And Adolin brought a scribe with him. Ostensibly, what he explains to Eshonai is like, oh, well, I want to record your words and send it back to my generals. But really, this is someone who can communicate with Dalinar for him and get any like messages that Dalinar needs to send. And Adolin's like, so we're here to talk about the terms of the Parshendi surrender. And Eshonai laughs. He's like, no, we're not. Things have changed since I spoke with your son, Blackthorn. Important things. Things you cannot imagine. And Adolin is like, I don't know where this is going, but we're tired of war. We know your numbers are getting small. Like, let's make a truce. And Eshonai's like, no, we are not as weak as you believe.
He's like, is this the same one that I spoke to?
Right? Yeah, very different tone of voice here. And Aegon's like, what do you want? How can we make peace? And she's like, oh, you want to know what you want to know how we can make peace? Okay, yeah. Here's how we can make peace when you are dead. That's, or us. You know, if you kill all of us, then that'll work too. But that's how this works.
This isn't going how I thought it would go.
You're sending me some mixed messages here?
Yeah, you sounded like really happy-go-lucky the other day, and today, like, I'm confused.
Yeah, and then we get one interesting piece of information where Aedelin's just like, clearly this is not going to go well. Just while I'm here, why did you kill Gavilar all those years ago? Why betray the treaty? Why did you start all this shit? And Eshonai goes, King Gavilar, he should not have revealed his plans to us that night. Poor fool. He did not know. He bragged, thinking we would welcome the return of our gods. And then she leaves. Like, that's a hell of an exit line. All right.
Cool,
Yeah.
cool. Wait, what are you talking about now?
What the hell? Yeah.
What?
Dad, what does that mean? Oh.
And Aedelin's like, how did I screw this up? I don't understand. And his dad sends him a message like, you did nothing wrong. Come back.
I was really drunk, son. I don't know what they're talking about. I will tell you this, and this is Joe, not Dalinar talking. I just thought about this, but he's talking about their gods, and then who was Gavilar talking to the night of the party and his death? Amaram, who we now know
Sure enough.
is trying to do something about Voidbringers.
Those are the Voidbringers, their gods.
Oh. I think if we're to believe Shallan, they are the Voidbringers.
Oh, they are the
Shadowbringers.
Voidbringers. Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, you're right. That does seem to be the what Yasna thought anyway. Okay. So maybe Gavilar really needed to die too, if he was part of a plan to bring back the Voidbringers. Like, we don't need that shit.
I'm so confused, but okay.
And Dalinar's like, no, you did fine out there, son. We know everything we need to know. And I was like, wait, what? We do? Like, I fucked that all up. And Dalinar's like, no, we know now that they will not agree to peace no matter what. My conscience is clear. We're going to go out there and we're going to kill them all. We're going to end this war one way or another. And their whole concern, the reason they didn't do this in the first place, is that they don't want to send a bunch of soldiers out there to get caught in a high storm or surrounded by Parshendi and wiped out. And Dalinar's like, nah, we're going to take our whole army and as many other high princes as will come, our soul casters for food. They won't be able to surround us with that many guys. And even if they did, it wouldn't matter. We'll leave right after the final high storm before the weeping. It's a light year, so there'll be no high storm in the middle of the weeping. We'll have no high storm for weeks. We can go out there and get them. And Dalinar's like, we have to beat them. We have to interrupt whatever it is they're planning before the countdown ends. So he seems to assume that there's a connection between what's going on with them and the countdown. But before we do that, we need more shards. Adolin, you got to win some more for us. And Adolin says he has a plan for his next target after he beats Ellet tomorrow. And let's do this.
I like this let's stop fucking around attitude.
Right? Yes. Please. Our last chapter was Into the Sky.
Gotta swap to the second volume of Books of Radiance.
Oh, yeah. That's the point where we
That's
swap over?
Yep. This 52 is the first chapter of volume 2.
So, I mean, it's not a terrible place to end the book where it's like, we've made a decision. We found out that Parshendi won't agree to peace. Let's stop fucking around, as you said.
Yeah.
Not like super dramatic or anything, but not bad.
But still a turning point.
Yeah.
Less blood in that meeting with Eshonai than I expected. I was expecting more blood.
Yeah, you kind of chill for all things considered, right?
Especially considering the overall point of the meeting was, nah, no peace, everyone gonna die. Okay. Starting when?
Okay, 52, Into the Sky. The epigraph says, now as the Truth Watchers were esoteric in nature, their order being formed entirely of those who never spoke or wrote of what they did, in this lies frustration for anyone who would see their exceeding secrecy from the outside. So the Truth Watchers were a mysterious order of Knights Radiant that did not make a record of what they did. So we cut to Kaladin for the first time in this section, I guess. So Kaladin's just going to go for a stroll on the Shattered Plains at night with a big old bag of spheres. And he just walks out and steps off of the edge and into the chasm. And we cut to Shallan. I'm sure he's fine, right?
Just going for a wall run.
He's fine. It's like, gotta get far enough away so no one sees you just drop into a chasm, but that's cool.
The
That
guards
would
on the
probably look
edge.
bad if like the head of the King's Guard just like committed suicide in front of everyone.
But then he shows up the next day and everyone's like, I swear I saw that guy jump into the chasm last night. Did you see anything else? No, we just heard all these echoes of someone going, parkour, parkour, parkour.
We cut to Shallan, who is in Sadeas's camp, and she thinks that this place stinks. It smells of desperation. Wait, was desperation even a smell? Well, anyway, Sabarial's camp, people are like busy. They're doing stuff, and in Sadeas's camp, people are shady.
I like the comparison. It's like in Sabarial, there are groups. In Sadeas's, there are packs. Like,
Yeah.
perfect. A+.
Yeah. Dalinar's camp smells like polish and oil, and everyone is doing something constructive around every corner. But Sadeas's camp, not so much. And she's like, actually, Sadeas's camp is kind of how I expected war camps to be in general, not knowing much about them beforehand. But she has come disguised as one of the messenger youths who moves around the camps. And Amaram has like his own kind of mini camp within the larger camp. He has a manor house and his banner flying up there. Like, he's an important dude. His colors of burgundy and forest green. And someone goes, hey, you! And Shallan's like, wait, what? And a guy comes over like, messenger at this time of night? From now on, as you visit, you got to report to the guard post. We're keeping a secure perimeter. And another guy's like, stop harassing the lad, Have. You can't expect him to know the rules when half the soldiers still don't. Anyone recognize the name Have? We've heard it a couple times.
No.
So the most memorable one for me is that after Kaladin gets his job working as one of Dalinar's bodyguards, he thinks like, I wonder what old Have would have thought. Like, he always said guard duty was like the best thing that a soldier could aspire to, basically.
Huh.
So it sounds like Have was either like one of his old sergeants, or maybe like a drill sergeant or somebody who trained him. But Kaladin got trained in Amaram's army. It makes sense that some of Amaram's troops he might still know.
Yeah, checks out.
And apparently this guy's on guard duty outside the place, so maybe Have got his dream. She's been like spying out Amaram's place for a while, watching people go in, watching people come out, trying to get an idea. She's been casing the joint for a burglary, essentially, and she thinks she's found her way in. There's a young girl who leaves every night with her suitor, sometimes with another guy, but twice with this particular guy that she's leaving with, one of the maids. And so Shallan puts on the maid's face, which she's drawn ahead of time, and is going to impersonate her coming back, which is a really simple and not a bad idea for sneaking in, I think. And then we cut back to Kaladin, who has got some Stormlight going so that he can jump to the bottom of the chasm and not get hurt. Good start. And he's just trying to do some intensive training in like moving from basically perspective to perspective. He wants to be able to go from the ground to the wall to the ground smoothly without stumbling, without it feeling awkward. And it feels so unnatural that he knows the only way to get it right is to practice. So that's what we're here for. And I like when he screws up, Syl's just like, man, that was pathetic. And Kaladin goes, agreed. And she's like, why don't you take it a little slower? Like, instead of jumping, or instead of running at the wall and jumping, why not just jump without running first? And Kaladin's like, no, the assassin could do it this way. I got to be able to do what he did. And Kaladin thinks like, Seth called this lashing. And Syl's like, yeah, that's a good word for it.
I completely forgot that Seth mentioned his name.
Right? Yeah. So for a moment, I'm just like, how do you know his name, Kaladin? Hold on.
Yeah. Had to go back and reread it. It's like, wait, did his name come up? I forget that bit, but no, it was there.
Which I wonder if Kaladin's mentioned that to anyone. Everyone still calls him the assassin. You don't hear anyone else calling him Seth. So did Kaladin just keep that to himself, maybe?
Well, it wouldn't really jive with his story that he told when he got back up top. He said, oh, by the way, I found out his name.
Oh, yeah, that's fair.
We had a good chat.
So yeah, I guess you get. It's a hell of a thing to keep secret, though. A thing that could help someone track down the assassin in white, knowing his name. But you're right; it would be hard to find an excuse for why you know that. Yeah, as we were falling, he just kept yelling his name. I don't know why. So we got back to Shallan. It is really a rapid jump back and forth here. She walks in as the maid to Amaram's kitchens, and the cook is there. And the cook is like, "You're back already? His gift tonight wasn't nice enough, or did the other one spot you two together?" And Shallan's like, "I can't impersonate this girl's voice, and I have no idea how to respond to this." And the cook's just like, "Well, Let's put you to some good use. Go polish the mirrors. Don't think we haven't noticed you sneaking off during midday. Just because the master's fond of you doesn't mean you can take advantage. Spending your free evening cleaning instead of playing might remind you have duties. And Shallan's like, damn it. They got given me work. I didn't anticipate this. My plan has already fallen to shit. And then she runs into Amaram, who she was absolutely sure would be not here at this time. Turns out he is. Wasn't he dining with Dalinar and the king tonight? Damn it. And her first thought is run, but that would look very awkward.
Yeah, that's not smooth.
And so she talks to Amaram, I guess maybe assuming that he wouldn't know the maid well enough to realize that she sounds a little different as opposed to the cook. And Amaram's like, Telesh, weren't you going out? And she's like, oh, now I know my name. Okay, this will help. Like, you couldn't have like found her name out some way? Like, just run into her by accident when she's out one day? I don't know. I just feel like you should know the name of the people you're trying to impersonate. So if someone starts yelling a name out, you know if you should respond. And like Amaram's like, I promised your good father I'd see you cared for. How can I do that if you won't settle down? And she's like, oh no, Have said there was a messenger for you? And Amaram's like, that man, he's too protective. I better go see what it's about. And once he's gone, Shallan gets over to the room that he was just leaving. And she's like, hey, Pattern, can you do something about the lock? And Pattern's like, it's a pattern. And he unlocks it like we've seen him do before. Pretty sweet.
I fucking love Patton.
Yeah. Or like this is, if you're playing D&D and you're a rogue, Pattern is who you want on your side.
Yep.
And then we come back to Kaladin. After she makes it into the room, this mysterious room the Ghostbloods wanted to see, and it's full of maps. Which I love a good map room, so that's good. We cut back to Kaladin, who's figuring out the trick. It's not about the landing, it's about fear. There's that moment just when you're changing where your instincts tell you this is wrong, you have to stop. You got to ignore that shit. And so he's starting to actually do a pretty good job. And Syl's like, hey, nice. And Kaladin says, it's unnatural. And she's like, no, I could never be involved in anything unnatural if it's just extra natural. You mean supernatural? No, I don't. Good for you, Syl. You just be mysterious. Why not? And so Shallan starts looking around the room with the maps, and she sees there's glyphs scribbled everywhere, but also she can make out some of the stuff is in Storm Warden script, a way that Storm Wardens get around their restriction on writing. They use stuff to calculate when high storms are going to show up. And she's like, oh, so like Amaram, is he a Storm Warden? Maybe the Ghostbloods are looking for that. They want to have blackmail material on him. He'd seem pretty messed up if he was some sort of male scholar. This attitude of the whole culture is so bizarre. And she tells Pattern to look outside and bring me word if Amaram comes back in. And in the meantime, she starts going around and taking memories of all of the maps. And she's trying to read the glyphs, but she's having a little trouble because like she can make out some of the meanings. The place of the center is uncertain. Maybe that's what that means. And it takes her a bit to figure out that they're not using the glyphs to mean the things that the glyph means. They're using it like phonetically. They're basically turning the glyphs into a written language that represents sounds as opposed to like a pictographic language that represents ideas.
You know what could solve this problem? Teach them to read.
Yeah, might help. They're just inventing their own new language that they are allowed to read. Like it's so weird. And so, but what she gets out of this is that there's stuff about the Parshendi written here. The Parshendi must know how to return the Voidbringers, remove secret from them, reach center before the Alethi armies. So whatever Amaram is trying to do, he's doing it outside of the normal army structure since he wants to get out there before the army. And she's like, oh, this is proof that the Ghostbloods are interested in the same stuff that Yasna was, and that Amaram is too. And she thinks, like, I have to stay involved here. I can't afford to have the Ghostbloods kick me out for messing this thing up. I have to get more information. She had to craft better lies. So she pulls a sheet of paper out and starts drawing. And we cut back to Kaladin, who's now, like, running all over the place, jumping from wall to floor, back to wall. He's got it down. In fact, he's starting to feel like this is natural. This is me. This is like the first time I picked up a spear and I just knew everything was perfect. And he thinks, I could lash myself up and fall into the sky forever. And he's like, no, it's not falling. It's like, does a sky eel fear falling? Does a fish fear drowning? No, the sky is mine now. And he does it. He throws himself into the sky. And she's like, you did it. What changed? And he says, I did. And she's like, well, yeah, but what about you? And he says, everything. Come back to Shallan, who has now disguised herself as Amaram. And she's figured out a way. Pattern is going to impersonate Amaram's voice, and she's going to mouth things while Pattern is talking, which he gets more useful all the time.
Right? I just hope he's not like half the DVDs in my collection where the sound is like a half second slower than the picture.
That's absolutely the way I'm imagining it, honestly, where it's like if she was paying enough attention, she would notice that Amaram is for some reason out of sync.
Yep.
And so Amaram, or fake Amaram, is like, hey, you spoke to the maid earlier? Well, he's talking to the cook. You spoke to the maid earlier? Well, no, I've sent her on a secret mission. So pretend you never saw her. And also, never talk about this conversation we're having right now. If you do, I'll pretend I don't know what you're talking about. Okay?
So convoluted.
And the cook's just like, okay?
I think she goes pale because she's like, what is happening?
I don't understand.
What is my life now?
And so she turns back into the messenger after leaving and runs into Amaram and Hav discussing the messenger. And she's like, oh, yeah, I've been sent from Shallan Devar. But what's interesting is she says, I bring you a message. And Amaram's like, well, obviously, what does he want? And she's like, he? No, I'm from Shallan Devar. Betrothed of Adolin Colin. She's updating the accounting of all the shard blades in Alethkar and adding pictures. And she wants to schedule a time to come and sketch yours. And he's like, really? You came so late at night to ask such a simple question? And Shallan's like, well, I don't question the commands of Light Eyes, High Lord. But also my mistress, she's a little bit flighty, so. And Amaram summons his shard blade. And he's like, oh man, yeah, aren't these things so cool? And Shallan looks at it, and she's like, holy shit, that's my brother's shard blade. And that is actually, I will pause for a second to say that I've been holding on to an email for a while, because the emailer sent in a theory, because they were reading the book at the same time as us. Or they were catching up with us, and they're like, hey, based on the descriptions, do you think maybe Halaran's shard blade is the same one that like Amaram has? And I was just like, I don't know that I want to put that in their heads before we get there. And then this person passed us in reading and eventually got there and wrote back like, oh my gosh, I just got there and I was totally right. And I was like, okay. So I was afraid if I didn't read that bit on the show that they might take that as indication that it was true, and then I would have spoiled it for them. So I wasn't sure what to do until they sent that second email. I was like, okay, they know, it's fine. But that's why I've been holding on to that one, because that was their theory.
Yeah, I honestly don't pay attention when they describe shard blades. Maybe I should, but yeah, I don't pay attention to that at all, so I had no idea.
Yeah, I want to find the Halaran. I want to find the place where they describe Halaran's shard blade when we see it, and let's see if how obvious it is. There we go. Okay, something formed in Halaran's hand, a blade some 6 feet long, curved and thick, with the side that wasn't sharp rising into the shape like burning flames or perhaps ripples of water. So that's the description that it gives us when Halaran summons his shard blade. If you go back to the first book, in the very first chapter, when we first see the shard bearer, it's described as a massive sword, not simple straight sword. It was curved, and the side that wasn't sharp was ridged like flowing waves. So those are pretty similar descriptions. Not like perfectly similar, but similar enough I could see where someone who was paying attention could pick up on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was definitely not. The only thing I know about the shard blade that Dalinar gave to Sidious is that it like has a hook end. That's the only thing I remember about it.
That is an easy way to differentiate Oathbringer from the other ones.
Yeah, it made me think of I don't even know that it's shaped like this, but it made me think of the Brotherhood sword or not the Brotherhood sword, whatever hooked sword.
The hook
Final
sword,
Fantasy X.
From that Titus has, yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's the other way around. Like I feel like the hook faces one way on his sword and the other way on Dalinar's sword, but I might be wrong. We come back to Kaladin, who's running around in the chasms, jumping around, doing stuff. And here's the part I got to a little earlier. Here's the part where he flies off into the sky, and he sees like Syl zipping along next to him, all excited. Then on the other side, there's like a bunch of Windspren, dozens of them who are flying along with him also. Who they look kind of similar to Syl. It says he could pick her out, but she didn't look really different from the other ones. Syl and her cousins twisted around him in a spiral of light. So, I mean, this would look very dramatic. I like this.
First the Lopin's cousins, and now Syl's cousins.
Everyone's got cousins. Yay, cousins.
I wonder if Kaladin has cousins. We don't really know anything about his parents' families. Except that his mom's dad did not like his dad. I think we found that out. Yeah, so we leave him in the Windspren in the sky to go back to Amaram. And Shallan in disguise is like, yeah, Brightness Shallan wants to have a record of the history of the Blades. Where did you get yours? And Amaram's like, I've already explained this to Dalinar. I don't know the history of it. A young man, Vedin, with red hair, tried to kill me. He was an assassin. We don't know his name. His face was ruined in my counterattack. And Shallan's like, young man, red hair. Damn it. This guy killed my brother. Okay, thanks. I'll pass the information along. And so she's like, Halaran, you were involved in all of this too? Just like father. But how and why? See, everyone is secretly involved in whatever weird conspiracy is going on. And why would anyone want to bring back the Voidbringers? And yet, like, Shallan hasn't seen her brother in a while. Probably hasn't even heard of him since the message that she got from the mysterious guy however long ago. But she didn't know he was dead until now. So that's sad. She's going to need some time to grieve now. Meanwhile, Kaladin is finding out some interesting stuff about lashings. Like, he lashes himself into the sky like a second and a third time, and he just is going faster and faster up into the sky. So high, the air is getting all cold and stuff. And then he he lashes himself downward and finds that, like, he's lashed himself 3 times up and 1 time down, and finds that, like, he's still going up. So it's like a cumulative thing. And he's so high that he can, like, look out on the shattered plains, and he realizes, like, it's a pattern, the way that it's broken. He'd seen this before in a dream. And Syl's like, yeah, not many men ever see this view. I've been trying to get you to do this for a while now. And he's like, it's like when I first picked up a spear. I was just a child. Were you with me back then, all that time ago? She says, no and yes. He's like, it can't be both. It can. I knew I needed to find you, and the winds knew you. They led me to you. And then he starts thinking about Seth. It's like, I have to use whatever edge I can get to beat him. You don't think he has a friend, but how does he do what he does? And she says, the weapon, it's something special. It was created to give abilities to men, much as our bond does. So there's our answer about how Seth does what he does. There's something special about his sword. And Kaladin's like, now that you bring up his sword, I'm going to have a lot of trouble fighting him without a shard blade of my own. And I know you don't like it, so I've not trained with the blades that Zahel offers, but this is, And she says, those blades are evil. And he's like, because they're symbols of the knight's broken oaths? But where did they come from in the first place? How were they forged? And can a new one be forged that doesn't bear the stain of broken promises? And she says, yes. And he says, how? And she says nothing. So that's helpful. So we're now going to have to undertake a quest to learn how to forge shard blades. Which he has a point. It's kind of hard to fight against a shard blade when you don't have a shard blade.
Secret shard blade. Fortune quest.
Swan had a secret shard blade.
I still want to know how she got one. Maybe she forged it herself somehow.
Could be.
That'd be pretty cool.
Does she know the secret of forging shard blades? Who knows?
Yeah.
And Syl's like, hey, while we're up here chatting, it's been 2 days since you found out about the people trying to assassinate the king. Shouldn't you say something to Dalinar about that? And Kaladin's like, well, he didn't listen when I talked about Amaram. And Syl's like, well, this is clearly different than that. Like,
yeah, I don't. I feel like that's not in Kaladin's character to even bring that up. Like, well, he didn't listen about Amaram. Like, what are you talking about? This is a completely different thing.
Yeah, like he's clearly just kind of like groping for excuses. And she's like, I mean, those guys didn't seem like the type who were going to wait a long time. And Kaladin's like, I'll do something about them. I just need to think about it some more. I don't want Moash to get in trouble.
No, please.
When this discussion previously came up, I think both Dak and Jamie were very vocal. It's like, no, Moash should absolutely get in trouble. Just throw him right under that bus.
Yep.
He's asking for it.
Now you're just telling him that it's okay to try and kill the king.
Yeah.
It's all right. These things can be forgiven. No.
Yeah.
Bad example to set.
If you are a boss and you tell someone that it is okay to do literally the opposite of their job, especially when your job involves, keeping people out of danger, then you might be a bad boss.
You might be a bad boss. Yeah, fair. And Kaladin starts heading over towards Sadius's camp. And she's like, Kaladin, what are you doing, buddy? And he says, I could end him. I could go through his window in a flash of stormlight and kill him and be off before anyone had a chance to react. Everyone would think it was the assassin in white. And she's like, Kaladin? Like, it's justice, Syl. You keep telling me I need to protect. If I kill him, that's what I'm doing, protecting people from being ruined by him like he did me. He killed Tien. I will end him. So he didn't really kill Tien, like, personally. In fact, after Tien died, Cal didn't even really blame Amaram for it. I guess he's changed his mind on that.
It's like when you start convincing yourself of something over and over time and it becomes true in your brain. It's like you might not have been the one who, physically did it, but it's your fault. You did it, and then it becomes you did it. You killed them.
That's fair.
Yeah, Simpsons did it. No, but I agree with Jamie. It's like he's going into that mind prison where it's like anger leads to
hate.
Suffering, right?
And she's like, okay, but do you really want to do this tonight after what just happened? After what you just did? Like the amazing stuff? He's like, all right, fine, not tonight. And he goes back to camp, and that's where we run into Shen, who's on his way out. And Shen says, sir, I have to leave. I'm sorry, I can't tell you why. And Callan's like, I mean, you're free. I'm not going to keep you here if you don't want to be here. But, I mean, I can't guarantee that wherever you go, you will be able to stay free because Parshmen are enslaved universally. And Shen's just like, no, I get it. You're leaving tonight? And he's like, immediately. All right. And Shen's like, you're a good man, Captain. I've learned much. My name is not Shen. It's Rlain.
This little bit was heartbreaking. Like, I like Rlain. I've really come to appreciate him. And just seems like you're a good man, Captain. I'm like, aww.
Yeah.
Maybe Rlain's the one they need to like go back and be like, look, they're not all bad.
Somebody to bridge the gap. He was a bridge man. He's the only bridgeman Parshendi. So you see?
Oh wow! Look at you, Data.
That's terrible.
Oh, I appreciated it, but apparently Jamie thinks it's terrible.
I thought it was clever, but wow.
Dad jokes. We're three of us are dads here, so
It's true. I do love a good dad joke.
Kaladin says, may the winds treat you well, Rlain. And Rlain says, the winds are not what I fear. And then he leaves, and that's the end of our chapter. So yeah.
He's gonna go back and be like, they're not all bad. Let me show you. He brings Kaladin along, and they're just like, isn't this the one who wore all our bones?
Yeah, right, exactly.
Like, forgot about that.
Oh, yeah, the bone
Yes, that's the worst of them.
He was a victim of circumstance with the bone wearing. I apologize for him on that one.
He apologizes
if he was here,
also.
Yeah, if he was here, he would totally apologize. I'm sorry about that. But yeah, no, he's a good guy. Good guy.
Let's do some predicaments. We're going to do 3 chapters again for next time. 53, 54, 55. And those chapters are called. 53 is Perfection. 54 is Vale's Lesson. And 55 is The Rules of the Game. So what do you guys think? Where are we going? What's going to happen? We have 2 episodes left before the end of this part.
Ooh. I have no idea what those chapters could possibly mean. So, short term, I feel like we have to see Adelin's duel with Ellet, was that guy's name. And yeah, there'll be some outcry of that. Adelin will win because that's what Adelin does, and I think, but he might find himself in hot water with some of the other High Lords, Bright Lords, and he's trying to win as many shards as possible, and he's got a plan for his next target, and I don't think we know who that is, so we will see how that goes. I get the feeling it's like it'll get better and then it'll get worse before they ride out. I don't really know. That's short term. Long term, Dalinar said, all right, we're going out to the Shattered Plains like we're just gonna do it. And I get the feeling that Sadius will like try and surprise everyone. It's like, all right, I'll tag along. I want to see how this goes, because he's made jokes before. It's like, oh yeah, go out there, get yourself surrounded and killed, and we'll just sit back and laugh. I think Sadius will pull a fast one and go, I'll come with you, and he'll try and set Dalinar up again, but then this time Dalinar tricks him and sets him up and leaves him abandoned on a plateau.
Ooh, okay.
I don't know. That might be a bit too cliche, but God, it'd be satisfying.
No joke.
Yep.
It's very un-Dalinar, though.
Yeah.
Like, I like the idea, but
that's why no one sees it coming.
Yeah.
But yeah, so those are the predictions I have. I had a thought, like not really related to anything that we've read, but just maybe it's a long-term prediction, but just something I've been turning in my head since we last recorded. Elhokar. I don't know if things look particularly good for him, but I think, he doesn't deserve a lot of the crap that he's getting at this point. I mean, is he a good king? No. But he is a guy who has lived like the last, half a decade or more, just in constant fear of his life day to day. So his mental health has clearly taken a beating, as we've learned with Moash. And Moash's friends. Elhokar's quite right to be afraid of assassins, not just of the assassin in white, but of the average man coming for him. Like, he's actually 100% correct. There are assassins coming out for him. Setting up his own fake assassination was definitely not his best move, but I can see why he did it. Like, he's right. People are out to get him. So I am kind of hoping for, at some point soon, Elhokar gets vindicated, like, in that, and he learns and he becomes a better king. I don't know if it'll end particularly well for him, but I hope that, he gets better and people see that he's doing better, because, like, I feel for the guy.
I like that you say that, because it reminds me of I have a framed print on the wall next to the bed that somebody got me for my birthday one year. It's a quote from the Dresden Files that says, "Paranoid? Maybe. But just because you're paranoid doesn't mean there's not an invisible demon about to eat your face."
Yeah, exactly right.
So,
in this case, Moash is the invisible demon.
I mean, he kind of, yeah. We know now that Moash is got it out for him, and he's right there protecting the king all the time. You really gotta hope that Kaladin has taken him off of protect the king duty, at least.
100%.
If he hasn't done that, that's some really bad supervisor work there.
Yeah. It's like, all right, well, I'm just going to sit on this for a bit. All right, that's disagreeable, but I'm going to keep you on protecting the king duty. What the fuck are you thinking?
Kaladin can't be that dumb.
Mm.
But yes, Elhokar being vindicated, that would be nice. I mean, we do know. I was gonna say we know
you said that.
We know that the assassin in white. I almost said we know the assassin in white is after him. That's not true. We know the assassin in white is around and attacking, but is specifically not after him. So if that reveal came out, if someone was like, "Oh no, he's actually after Dalinar," that'd be like the opposite. Everyone would be like, "Elhokar, you've been paranoid. Nobody even cares about you."
Yeah. And like that might give strength to Moash's little cabal of shitheads.
Mm-hmm. Probably.
When it's like, oh, see Kaladin, like no one cares about him. I mean, I'll admit, part of my hoping that Elhokar gets vindicated means that it would just mean more shit to dump on Moash. So
it's true. If Moash's role in this comes out, he's not going to walk away looking great. If it comes out, I should say, to anyone but Kaladin, who's apparently giving him a pass.
Yeah.
Everybody gets one. You get one attempted regicide, no more.
Pretty much perfect. Now don't do it again.
Yeah. Just waggle your finger at him authoritatively. There you go. Good enough.
Remind me of these chapter titles again.
We have Perfection, Veil's Lesson, and The Rules of the Game.
Oh my god, I don't know. Perfection.
That's that game where everything pops up if you don't get them all in the thing.
Oh, that's right. Pop goes perfection. It's a race to beat the clock. If you're not quick. Maybe perfection's about Kaladin learning to fight with Sahel. I don't know. Veil's Lesson. Yeah, okay. I don't know. That one.
You may remember that Veil is the name that Shallan gave to the Ghostbloods in her disguised state. She was like, "Oh, they call me Veil."
Oh, I don't remember that. but thank you for reminding me. So I guess maybe she'll go back to see them with the maps or whatever. Still on the theory train that that one dude is Hoyd, and so be interested to know if we get any more insight on that. And the rules of the game, I feel like that's got to be Adolin centric. Perhaps kind of what Dak said, where he wins, but it doesn't go exactly how he wants it to go, and there's certain rules that he didn't understand that Sadeas is playing and doesn't know, and so yeah, I'm gonna guess it has something to do with that. As far as where we're going overall, I mean, obviously we're about to come to the end of a part. So I feel like there's going to be a lot of possible moments where we're like, oh, what's going to happen now with that? Now we're in a dangerous position, or we're in a precarious position. Where I could see that going is like, as far as like the Shallan stuff, maybe she's found out that she's not, that the Ghostbloods find out that she's not who she said she is. Maybe Kaladin gets found out, like, as far as being able to wield Stormlight by somebody. And then Adolin's in hot water with Sadeas. The Parshendi make their move where they all transform into this new form. It is interesting to me that there was talk of like, we don't want our gods to return by Eshonai, because seemingly, maybe I'm understanding it wrong, or maybe I've come up with this theory and it's not true, but seemingly to me, she's being controlled by whatever like storm power is inside her to an extent, because we get that moment of her of like inside she's screaming or whatever. And so if her gods aren't the one causing that, which I thought they were, then like, would the gods coming back be good?
Yeah, when they talked about storm form, Eshonai, before she took the form, she was like, but that's like a form of the gods or whatever. Right. And her sister was like, oh, the gods are related to practically all of them. Don't worry about it. So yeah, who's behind this?
I mean, I would guess Odium, but I don't know. I don't know the deets, obviously. So, but yeah, I think a lot of things are going to come to a head, and we're going to be left like with like, oh no, what's going to happen next? And then we'll move on to the next part. But that's kind of where I see us heading, at least in the immediate future.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, you hope at the end of a part that there'll be something cool and exciting, and then we get to move into the interludes from there. And I may point it out before, but the first of the 3 interludes on this one is the longest chapter in this whole book. So we'll have a juicy interlude at the very least when we get there, and that'll be 3 weeks from now when we do the interludes. So yeah, they'll hopefully an exciting, maybe cliffhangery type thing at the end of this part will be fun. Or maybe it'll just be Dalinar saying, I'm gonna resign again, and we're like, yeah, whatever, shut up.
George Harrison rolls by and goes, "It's been done."
But Joe points out what I think is an important question here, because we did learn in this thing about their gods and how Gavilar was supposedly, according to Eshonai, who we don't know that Eshonai is 100% believable at this point, but she says that Gavilar was trying to bring back their gods, and we know from the interludes we've seen with Eshonai that they don't like their gods. They don't want their gods around. So have they inadvertently invited them back in by using storm form? Are they already showing up? Because she's still indicating that they don't like them. So yeah, like, what is going on? It's confusing, quite frankly.
Ooh, predictions. With these chapters, Vale's lesson's got to be Shallan, and it's got to be her going back to the Ghostbloods. That's really the only thing I can think of there. Rules of the game, I just kind of thought maybe it was Adolin and Dalinar planning out more of their attack and what they're doing. Yeah, I don't know. And perfection, not a clue. Maybe by rules of process of elimination, maybe that's a Kaladin chapter or something. Yeah, not really much there. Overall predictions for where we're going. Obviously, we're not getting any closer to that 32-day So that's still got to be the end of the book. So I think in terms of the end of this part, maybe we're going to see something bigger, like with Adolin and working towards taking the shards off like Thaddeus's people, and probably something to do with Amaram. Maybe I feel like he's got to get a little bit more involved in what's going on more than he's around. Too many characters have ties to him now. That yeah, something's got to start coming to a head there, and perhaps it's with the Ghostbloods and in that direction. I had a thought. I didn't have a think. So in the last week's set of chapters, Shallan was going through, I think it was the maps and seeing everyone's different views of Urithiru and what they look like. And I remembered when she was going through with Yasna the different patterns and layouts of the different cities, and then for Kaladin to point out that there's a pattern in the Shattered Plains. Maybe this is Urithiru. Like maybe this is where they are now. It's not anyone's city specifically, but it's close enough to their city. But maybe one of those patterns will be recognized. I don't know how they'd get there and figure that out, but having someone back in the air again, maybe they're already here, or this is like that portal to wherever Urithiru is, because that was something they were talking about as well. So yeah, that's kind of all I've got, really. I don't know. There's so much going on. I don't really know where to start unpacking who's going to do what.
That's fair. Yeah, Yasna seems certain that Urithiru was not on the Shattered Plains, but I mean, it's possible Yasna could be wrong. Or maybe, like you said, Shallan's other theory was that there's some sort of way to get from here to there. And I think last time, Jamie, you didn't make it last time, but Dak and Joe had some theories about that. I think, Joe, were you the one theorizing this like a floating city, or was that Dak? I forget now.
I had two different theories. One that it was a floating city, and one that it was like in the cognitive realm.
Yeah.
So there's possibilities, but
there's lots of possibilities. So that's cool. I like that it's in the cognitive realm. That's pretty cool.
It would explain why nobody can find it very easily, for sure, if that was the case. But yeah.
Yeah, and all these different like gateways outside of cities were like perpendicularities where you could travel to the cosmic realm, or cosmic. I keep saying cosmic. Cognitive.
The cosmic. The power cosmic. So yeah, there's hopefully we will find out. Hopefully it won't take us till book 5 to figure out where the hell Urithiru is if everyone's out here looking for it.
Yeah, book 5 is so far away.
I know, right? Let's move into a couple of emails, y'all. We actually have a huge backlog now since we didn't record for 2 weeks. I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. We got like 11 emails. But we won't. We'll hit a couple of them today, and then I think at some point we're just gonna have an episode where it's like we're gonna spend a long time on emails this episode and just let it happen at some point. But anyway, the first one is the one that I've been saving for a while that I mentioned earlier. This one is from Nafez, is Nafez. It says prediction after episode 204. Hi, Sanderlanche gang. I was reading the Wheel of Time series and got to know Brandon through the last 3 books, obviously. And after finishing that series, I was looking for the next series, and I thought, why not check out Brandon's own stuff? But as I'm without a reading group, podcasts usually fill that role for me to discuss spoiler-free progress and anything missed from previous events in the books. I looked for one, and yours was my guide. I knew I wanted to start with the Mistborn series after having read a comment online. I was lucky to find you guys, but you were way ahead of me. I don't remember honestly when, but I think you guys were either on the first book of the Stormlight Archive or the one before. I started reading and listening. I usually listen while driving and might read ahead a couple of books, but long story short, I am almost caught up to you. I just started chapter 21 and finished listening to the podcast coverage of chapter 17 through 20. First, thank you guys for all the good times, and I get annoyed when you guys predict upcoming events sometimes, as I feel Brandon didn't do a good job to make it more of a surprise or shocking. Anyway, I wanted to share a predicament. Please don't confirm or deny if you know already, as there are 4 more episodes of the podcast that I didn't get to you. But what alerted my thoughts was the description of the Shardblade Shallan's brother, as described when he threatened his father. Is it possible that he was the one who attacked Amaram's army and was killed by Kaladin? I wonder if the blade description was the same. I didn't check, but wouldn't that be an interesting connection for both stories? Thank you again for the entertainment, and catch you soon. It will be difficult to be ahead of you guys in the books and have to wait for podcast episodes now. So Nafez, that was
That's,
his email.
Yeah, that's cool. He predicted something that none of us did. So that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, nailed it.
Very cool prediction.
And then there's a follow-up email that says, "Hi, Sanderlanche crew. I hope all is well. Guess what? I was right. I caught up to the latest episodes and continued reading. Sorry, it's hard to do it slower like you guys. But I reached chapter 52. I have the paperback 2 parts, and this was the first in part 2. And Amaram summoned his stolen shard blade, and Shallan recognized it. I knew something was wrong when the description of Helaron's shard blade was given in detail during that flashback. Anyway, it was not a difficult guess. The printing on this copy of the paperback is terrible. Seems like they ran out of ink. I ordered hard copies of the books. I wish I did for this one before. Listen to you soon from Nafez. And then one more update. Another update. Sorry for so many emails, but you are my reading group. First, you guys need to read way faster. I'm ahead of you now. I just finished part 4. Spoilers. My question to everyone is, what is the light in the safe of Shallan's dad behind the painting that she said was her mother's soul? I don't know. Shouldn't it be explained? Maybe it will be in like a flashback of her mom dying or something. Obviously, it's hinted many times. I don't know. Listen to you soon from Nafez. So, good question.
I think we all kind of scratched our heads on that.
Yeah.
We're like, what is that?
For sure. I mean, yeah, mom's soul is in a box. Like, what on earth the hell are we talking about?
I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a bit weird.
We'll read one more email, and this email actually comes with a review at the end, of Spotify review, so Joe, get your list ready for reviews. It says, "Hey, podcast and theories" is what this is titled. "Hey, Sanderlanche crew. Since I'm finally caught up, I just wanted to thank you for the podcast. It really helps getting through the monotonous part of my job, and it's really interesting to relive the Cosmere through other people's eyes. I have 2 quick questions for Data, though. Question that is a spoiler, and I will not read, but I will answer to you. The person who sent this is, sorry, let me get to the signature, Tim/Saphandrius1848 on Discord. So, Tim, you know that I'm reading yours. First question is, what do you think of this particular thing, Data? And it's a very popular theory. I feel like so popular that I am suspicious that it is too obvious a guess. But at the same, it does make sense. I mean, there's a reason so many people are theorizing that. So, my question is, I'm not sure what to think of, or my answer is, I'm not sure what to think of it. Secondly, do you intend to give informations on things that are primarily WOBs, words of Brandon? For instance, some stuff about the 17th shard. I personally think that these could be given out, as they're not RAFO-able, like you can't read and find these things out because they're not written in there yet. My answer to that would be, I do give these guys information from Words of Brandon when I feel that it is the right time for them. I've done that a lot with, some might say too much, with some of the annotations from Warbreaker, for instance, but it does happen. So when I think it's the right time, if I think it's the right time, then I will give out the information. And finally, he sent us a screenshot of his, I guess, his German review on Spotify. 5 stars. 5 fünf. I don't know what stars are in German. Sorry.
Used to be like my go-to if I needed to know a German word. I'd ask you.
Yeah, I
it's been a long time.
2 years of German in high school. I remember a little bit of it, but not a whole lot.
Right. Well, that was a glowing review. You really soothed me with it. So you're a soother.
All right. You know what? This next one is relatively short. We'll do one more quick email since we have so many of them. This one is from Michael, and it's called "On Customization of Military Uniforms," which you guys will remember we discussed briefly. "Hey, Sanderlanche crew, Michael from Seattle here. Between y'all's progress through Words of Radiance and the Wind and Truth preview chapters, Monday has become a very Stormlight-filled day for me." Yeah, Monday's when those preview chapters come out. So it is acting to just keep hyping up to the release in December, and I can't wait to see how Brandon sticks the landing of Stormlight Era 1. I had a fun thought while you guys were discussing chapters 43 and 44, specifically where you're talking about military uniforms of Dalinar's soldiers and how some of them have replaced the buttons with gemstones, personalized them in different ways. That's not too different from what happens in the military, at least the U.S. military today. I spent a few years in the Army after high school, and almost everyone would do some similar little tweaks to your issued uniform, whether that would be getting different eye protection, better boots, a different branded belt. It was all the little ways to personalize and upgrade your uniform while staying within regulations. I don't know if that's something Sanderson was aware of when writing that description, but it's a fun little detail I noticed while y'all were discussing it. Can't wait till you get to the end of the book. In my opinion, it's one of the best Sanderlanches ever, wasing to the time of next. Colo, Michael. So, yeah, good to know.
Spoiler that it's one of the best Sanderlanches ever.
None of us were really in a position to comment much on the authenticity of the military, of that happening in the military. So good to hear from someone who is. Yeah. Those are the emails we'll do for now. Although I will give you guys a slight spoiler on emails that the next one in line is titled "In Defense of Moash." So,
Oh, God.
got that way, of course.
All right. Well, we immediately aren't going to listen to anything that person has to say.
We got some new reviews. One of them from Poland. This one is from Disco Anxiety in Poland. Message from the past, it says. 5 stars. It's September 1st, 2024 when I'm posting this comment, and all while binge listening to your podcast for the last month or so. I got super hyped after hooking my friend on Sanderson, and I couldn't have enough of Brandon. Found you guys. Right now, it's the episode of Hero of Ages where Joe says we should all write 5-star reviews if we want to get a shout out in one episode. So here I am. Even if you read this comment out loud, it's going to be on a Stormlight episode, as far as I can see the most recent episodes, which is still a couple of weeks of 24/7 listening ahead of me. I wonder if you still call your reviewers Mistings, or maybe some new cool name after reading Elantris and some of the Stormlight books. Oh my gosh, I bet you call us Sprens by now, don't you? Gotta say, I love your energy in those theories. I'm so excited when you throw something out lightly as a side note, which turns out to be the plot twist of the story. It's like a book club, but cooler and with more laughs. I hope you all are still having as much fun as you do when I'm listening to your 2021 episodes. All the best, and keep on. From Patrick /Disco Anxiety.
Patrick. Well, Patrick, that was great, man. I'm going to give you... why don't I give you a seer? I love that. Seer. Get that adium.
All right. I like the idea that we've changed it to Spren. We don't know that much about very many different Spren at this point. There's so many of them, though. Like, Joe would just be, like, pulling Spren out of his ass and being, you're a fire flame Spren, whatever. I don't know why, but you are.
Flameo Hotman.
And our other 5-star one, we got a 4-star one, but I'm not going to read that one. The other 5-star one is from Adam, and it says, Cosmere Book Club. I finally started reading Sanderson's books in December 2023. Part of the fun of reading is discussing with other fans, but since most of my friends are not into fantasy, I turn to podcasts. Data, Joe, Dak, and Jamie are there to fill that void for me. I love hearing Data's insights as a longtime Cosmere reader, as well as the predicaments from the newbies. I'm reading along for the first time as well, and can't wait to catch up. I know I have quite a ways to go, as I just finished Alloy of Law. I'm not a super fast reader, and I like to intersperse other series in between. Anyway, I look forward to being inducted into the Misting crew by Joe. Keep up the great work, and wasing to the time of next.
Oh, well, that's a 10-eye review if I've ever heard one.
There you go. Not a lot of 10 eyes that I remember in Era 2, since that person was just reading Alloy of Law.
Right. I've always kind of liked 10 eyes, except for, the most famous 10 eye, infamous 10 eye of the first series.
Notorious.
We know that Mare, Kelsier's wife, was also a 10 eye. We just never really got to hang out with her any.
You know who else was a 10 eye who was awful?
Who?
Wasn't Strathventure a 10 eye?
Strathventure was a 10 eye. Yeah.
Yeah.
What a jerk.
Yeah. What a jerk.
Way to ruin it for all the 10 eyes. So if we do have a lot of emails lined up, but if you want to send us an email, like some of these folks did, the address is thesanderlanche@gmail.com. Find us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, places like that, or on Patreon, where I am still posting up my initial readings of the preview chapters of Wind and Truth, and I'm going to get back around to Dragonsteel Prime when those are done. But we have a couple of people who did find us on Patreon and signed up since our last recording. We have 3, actually. 3 new patrons. You guys are awesome. Our first one at the Misting level is Tony.
Tony, you're a skimmer.
Skimmer's a good one. That's Wax.
Yeah, I like Wax.
The next one at the Ska level is Micah.
Micah, you're an archivist. Store that copper.
It's like Micah's from the U.S. Tony was from New Zealand based on this email address. So I visited there earlier this year. So I was about to say that doesn't have anything to do with anything, but
no.
And our third new patron at the Misting level. Let me see. This appears to say Hubris and Excess.
Hubris and Excess. You are, well, that's quite a mouthful. So you're a gasper.
Very nice. Okay. So thank you to our new patrons. You guys are awesome. If anyone's interested in listening to me ramble as I'm reading stuff and be like, what is happening here? And throw out insane theories that are, I'm not going to say a match for volcano theories. It's hard to live up to that standard of theorizing, but I probably get close with my insanity. So if you're interested, sign up for our Patreon. Check that out. If you're not interested in hearing me talk more than you already have to listening to this podcast, I don't blame you. As long as you keep listening, we're all good. Thank you, everyone out there who are emailers, our patrons, or if you're just listening to the podcast every week, you guys are awesome, and we appreciate you. Remember, that is going to be 3 more chapters for next time. That's 53, 54, and 55. I think that you guys will enjoy these chapters. There's some fun stuff. Or at least I hope you will. So if you're following along, 3 chapters for next time. Music by Miracle of Sound, and Wasn't the Time of Next. Colo, P.S. Vasher. Crab at thee.
You forgot your name. Don't let your spirit fade away. Amnesia, you've been through such pain. You're growing stronger every day. Amnesia.